I find The Dark Knight Rises fascinating, because after having a decade to do it, the video essay community has frankly let you guys down because we've never supplied a satisfying answer to the question, why is this film merely good instead of being great? It is the weakest film of the Dark Knight trilogy. I did a poll just to check, and a whopping 70% of you feel this way, while 3% of you need to buy more accurate mice because you clearly misclicked on that poll.
Why?
But on the surface, it should be just as good as The Dark Knight. The set pieces are fantastic, the acting was too, the cinematography is sublime, that ending had everyone crying, and it has plenty of fun ideas. Yet it just somehow never lived up to the hype created by The Dark Knight. It was only recently that I stumbled across what I think is the true reason why this film fumbled the ball. But before we address that, we've got to address the main criticism people throw at this film. That's right, it's the plot holes.
All those plot holes people complain about, they don't actually matter.
Whoa, steady on, Patrick, let's not go that far. Plot holes suck, this is true. Yet plot holes alone are practically never enough to bring a movie down. People like to point out it's ridiculous that the entire police force could be trapped underground at the same time. Then you've got Batman teleporting from the prison and into Gotham, and my favourite one, which people don't often bring up but I think is the worst of the lot. Bane wants to destroy Gotham. That is his motivation. So when he secures a nuke, why does he not just immediately trigger it and destroy Gotham? Like, why bother with occupying the city for months on end? Like, his actions don't add up with his motivations. But here's the issue with all of this, and this is why this main criticism has fallen a bit flat on this film. Imagine a different Dark Knight Rises where everything is the same, except somehow Bane's motivations now add up, and Bruce teleporting are explained away by altering the timeline a bit and throwing in a cheeky little montage of him getting there. And also, let's say the police getting trapped just made more sense. Even then, this film, it would still be just as middlingly fine as it was before. Like, I'm going to throw a bit of shade at Mauler and the other folks who upload these 2-hour-long analyses of just one film. These kinds of critics are renowned for nitpicking. In exhaustive detail, they'll outline every plot hole and inconsistency, and every time they're completely correct. Like, every last word they say is the truth. Yet, if every of the hundreds of critiques they made are addressed, a lot of the time, the movie still wouldn't be that good a story. It might be an alright story, maybe even a good one, but certainly not a great one, betraying that this kind of critique around mere inconsistency, while it has its place and is genuinely useful sometimes, it is far from the best way to diagnose core problems with a story. To set us on the path, realizing what's wrong about this film, I think I know exactly what it is, and the reason why is by pure chance. In a recent novel I wrote, which I will not be releasing, I made a mistake. What I'm pretty sure is the exact same mistake Nolan made with this film. And this mistake, it is all to do with theme. And to break down this film's theme, there are a crucial few moments we need to look at. In the middle, Bane breaks Batman's back. A proper defeat for our protagonist. Okay, how did this happen? It was for two reasons. Catwoman tricked him into the duel, hinting at the idea that Bruce is too trusting, and Bane also says,
"This has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you."
Alluding to the idea that Batman has gotten too complacent in being the top dog, so much so he's lost his mojo. Okay, cool. These are the two weaknesses in Bruce's character highlighted by this plot beat. Now let's compare that to the climax of the film when they have their rematch. They throw a few punches and hey presto, Batman wins. Alright, how did he win? Or let me phrase it in another way, what did he do differently to win this fight that he didn't do in the first fight? Did he overcome his naivety of being too easily trusting? Well, no, because Miranda stabs him in the back immediately after this fight, clearly not that. Batman's resolve then, where victory has defeated him because he no longer puts in 110%. In the fight itself, did he come fully prepared with new weapons or tactics? No, not that one either. But in the first fight, Bane does say,
"You fight like a younger man. There's nothing held back. Is that admirable?"
but mistaken.
Alright, so did he fight far more defensively, having learned from his mistake of being too brazen before? No, not that one either, but let's not stop there. There is of course what Batman learned in the pit. He has learned to embrace his fear, for this is what allowed him to make the climb as he didn't use the rope. This was something that Bane notably never managed to achieve. Now this is perfect material, like you could build a great theme out of this right here. But does this play into the climax? Do we get a moment where they're facing imminent death during their final fight, and Batman keeps a level head, but Bane panics because he's never learned to master his own fear, unlike Batman, and that is what causes Bane's defeat in the end? Again, no, a change like that would have done wonders at giving this film a better defined theme. But no, they just punch each other for a bit before Batman's declared the winner. This couldn't be more crucial. Between the first and second confrontation with Bane, there needed to be some larger thing at play which caused Batman's initial defeat, but then that something changed, causing him to win the second time round. This betrays the rather grim truth that this story, it kind of doesn't have a theme, and this is why this film isn't close to being as great as The Dark Knight, and I know that is a bold claim, so allow me to justify it. Here's the mistake this movie makes. It throws in a ton of disparate ideas. Batman being too easily trusting as he is with Catwoman and Miranda. Him learning to embrace fear in that pit. We also have the Occupy Wall Street elements where the rich are cast down and their wealth is shared with the average Joe. We also have Bane's motivation of wanting to destroy Gotham because it's an irredeemable cesspit, echoing Raz in film 1. We also have side arcs like the police commissioner being a coward but learning to be braver as the film goes along. We also have Commissioner Gordon lying to the people about the fate of Harvey Dent and exploring that idea of, is lying wrong if it's for the greater good of society? Like, all of these elements alone are great. They're great elements. What is not great is how we're getting all of them in the same movie. And a little like Harold's novel, and that's a callback only the long-term viewers of this channel are gonna get, these ideas are incongruent. Forget plot holes, forget motivation consistency. I'd argue that this, while it is a more subtle problem, is also a more ruinous one because theme is like a glue that binds everything together into one larger cohesive whole. And this is a story, because it lacks a theme, doesn't have that. It's a story that has no idea what it's out to say. To all this, I know there are a few people out there who are going to dismiss it, saying, well, that's just silly. Courage is clearly a present theme, as is fear, as is masculinity and capitalism too. What's wrong with that? Allow me to explain the many things wrong with that. The idea of theme being this nebulous thing that everyone can have their own interpretation of, that's a viewer's mindset. As an audience member, go for it. Like, perceive theme that way if you want to, it won't do any harm. But as a writer, there are no ifs or buts about it. You've got to have a laser-focused theme. This is the mistake I was alluding to earlier. When I was writing my last book, I screwed up here. And if I'm coming across as a little extra passionate right now, it's because this is a lesson I learned the hard way very recently. Like, I had the idea of, well, I'll throw in a bunch of different ideas. A monologue about some philosophy about war over here, a sprinkle of something separate over there, a villain having a motivation that has no connection to any of the other ideas on display, and also something nebulous over here too to do with the protagonist's backstory. And from this hodgepodge of disconnected stuff, the reader can extract whatever theme they like. This is a good way to write stories, right? Wrong! This is a terrible way to write stories, and I binned that novel because of it. The world is never gonna see it. The big lesson I learned here is, as a writer, you want to say, here is the specific idea I'm tackling in this story. Here is how I'm going to weave it into the plot and the character motivations. Then gradually explore this theme more and more with each passing scene, having this exploration culminate in a climax where the theme is finally given a resolution. Usually, but not always, in the form of the protagonist completing their arc. By the way, this is a companion video to one I made a while back on how to write themes. I give a proper deep breakdown of my philosophy when it comes to writing them in that video, and this Dark Knight Rises video is a case study in how to apply that philosophy. These two videos are meant to be watched together, so do click that card on the top right of the screen if you're interested. But to illustrate why this isn't all gobbledygook, if you want a positive example of how to do theme well, look at The Dark Knight. This film has a universal thematic question at the heart of it. Are humans inherently good, or are we inherently bad? Batman believes humans are good, Joker believes humans are bad, and the entire film is these two characters arguing over who is right. The Joker very effectively makes his case by corrupting police officers, getting random civilians to try and murder an innocent man. He corrupts Harvey Dent, of course. All the while, Batman is having his arse kicked ideologically because Joker's been making a bloody good case that everyone is corruptible. Everyone has an evil side that's dead easy to tap into. This all culminates in the two barges when the passengers are told to blow up the other boat or die themselves, and Batman finally has a major validation of his beliefs when the convicts and the civilians choose to not murder each other to save their own skins, as they act selflessly. The conclusion of the story's theme is an interesting one where it basically says, it's both. Humans are both good and evil, some more than others, and all it takes is the right situation to reveal not just the worst, but also the best in all of us. Something magical happens when you have a proper theme. It causes all elements in your story to achieve a kind of harmony with each other that elevates the work, making it greater than the sum of its parts. This can be said for The Dark Knight, and it can't be said for The Dark Knight Rises. When you compare them, the difference is so stark that I find it a little bit funny. Take the moment of Bane's death. It happens like so.
You'll just have to imagine the fire.
About the whole no guns thing. I'm not sure I feel as strongly about it as you do.
He gets shot by a motorbike? Really? Like, Bane is killed in the same fashion his character was treated by the writers. Hand-waved away. I'm going to be a bit brutal here and argue that Bane's death is honestly an awful moment because there is nothing happening on a deeper level here, meaning we feel no kind of grand catharsis when it happens. And it's like Nolan subconsciously knew that, so he did a bit of hand-wavery and threw in some comic relief after the fact to distract us from the anticlimax of the main villain's death. Compare Bane's defeat to the Joker's, and how his defeat didn't lie in a mere fist fight with Batman, but rather a battle for the soul of Gotham, a battle over the theme. Joker's defeat is way more satisfying, as he receives a tremendous ideological blow in the same moment he receives a physical one. This is starting to highlight one of the problems of having no theme binding the elements of the story together, because you will have aspects like the prison sequence where Bruce learns to embrace his fears and make the climb. Now this is a good sequence, it's a compelling watch, but because this subplot is so self-contained, so marooned in terms of theme, you could cut it and the movie would be just as cohesive if you ignore the fact that Batman isn't on screen for about half an hour of the film. Now, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is here and suggest a fix for all I've said in this video, proposing a better version of the story than what we got. All too often in these rewrites, people get so carried away with the deviations that it veers into the realms of fanfiction, so instead, to ensure that this doesn't happen, I'm going to change as little as is humanly possible to fix this story. As mentioned earlier, this film has a ton of different themes it touches on, just none in too great a depth, so I'm going to pick one of them and make that the theme. We could pick the idea of Batman being too trusting of people, but the issue with that arc is it won't create the right dynamic with Bane. We need it so Bane and Batman believe fundamentally different things about this core theme. So, taking Bane, what's his big want in this movie?
I'm here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
Very good. He believes similar things to Ra's al Ghul from film 1, namely that Gotham is a cesspit beyond redemption and needs to be destroyed. I think we can work with that, and more than that, I think we can transform this into an honestly incredibly compelling theme. Let's make this story about redemption, and phrasing that in the form of a question, Are some systems beyond redemption? Batman and Bane will be fighting over this question, and Gotham will be their battleground. So what we do with the opening prologue with Bane and the plane, it's a really good introduction to his character, so let's keep it, but let's alter it. So the reason why Bane is doing this is because he's securing a nuclear bomb. And forget that whole subplot involving like Wayne Enterprises being infiltrated so the Bane can get like a bomb from their nuclear reactor thing. Like, that's just convoluted. In the prologue, Bane acquires his nuke. And after that, when we're back in Gotham, we spend a while following Batman do his thing. And somehow, we show off how terribly corrupt Gotham is. We perhaps see Batman fighting Maroni, that guy from film 2, and it was never explicitly said he was dead in that film, so I'm going to roll with that. And Batman takes out his goons, arrests him, and takes him to GCPD, business as per usual. But almost immediately, Maroni is released, and it turns out he's bribing high-up officials, and there's not much Batman can do about that. And we see corruption at the highest levels of the local government. We make it very clear that Batman is not just fighting the criminals on the streets, he's fighting the system, because on every level, the police, the courts, the mayor's office, it is all rotten. If you remember back to film 1, we have this exchange.
The League of Shadows has been a check against human corruption for thousands of years.
Gotham isn't beyond saving. Give me more time.
You are defending a city so corrupt we have infiltrated every level of its infrastructure.
This is a theme where the groundwork was laid kind of perfectly in film 1. Batman Begins shows very clearly that Gotham is corrupt, massively so, and this continues on in film 2 when the mob are bribing the police into working for them. This is something the trilogy never resolves. Batman asked Ra's for more time to redeem Gotham. Well, he's had a full decade as Batman. Still, the city is rotten to the core, and he is helpless to stop it. We'll say that Gordon's doing his best to fight it from the inside, but again, there's not much he can do either. Meanwhile, while this is all going on, we introduce Robin as a young hotshot policeman who's just joined the force, and we see through his eyes how his superior officers are pressuring him into accepting bribes and throwing away his integrity. Robin feels the temptation, but he resists. So, with the stage fully set, enter Bane. He's clearly planning something, so Batman and the police agree to assault his base in the sewers. The issue is, due to rampant corruption, Bane's bribed the higher-ups in the police into ordering their men to not attack, meaning that when Batman turns up, he turns up alone and doesn't have his planned backup. They will be fighting a small army down there, but now, because of this, it's only Batman fighting them. So Batman fights his way through many armed guards and he takes them out, but my god does he take a beating on the way. And now bruised and beaten, he faces down Bane at his weakest. Bane reveals that he actually respects Batman, like he's kind of a fan, but how pathetic is a city when it needs a masked vigilante? What will happen to Gotham when you die, Bane asks, and he points out the very true fact that Gotham will crumble into an even worse state when Batman inevitably passes on. I am not going to do the Bane voice where I say, oh yes, you'll think the darkness is your ally. I'm just going to say normally because I don't want to embarrass myself, okay? Bane would say, you looked up to Harvey Dent as your savior, and look how well that turned out. Here, Batman is just speechless. He's got nothing to say, because Bane is right. Like, he is dead on correct. So Bane goes on to say that he wants to make a larger point. He wants his worldview, the League of Shadows worldview, to be validated, and for everyone to watch as it happens. Batman can't even imagine how Bane plans to do this, and he's frankly kind of like perplexed, not just from the fighting, but just from Bane making such good points that undermine his entire philosophy. So they have their fight, but due to Batman being so beaten from having no backup at all, and also because Bane is actually a very good fighter, Batman has his ass absolutely kicked. Then Bane takes over the stadium just like before. He's still got the nuke and all that, but his speech is now slightly different. He opens it by pointing out the mayor in the viewing box above, mentioning how he's been receiving monthly bribes from the mob, and he brings his receipts quite literally as he shows them them on the grand camera for the whole crowd to see. He points out that the mayor is corrupt as hell. Then he points at the bridges he just destroyed, saying he waved money under the police's noses and got them to turn a blind eye to reports of his men doing shifty things on said bridges last night, which is when they were planting the explosives. He makes it a point that Gotham is such a cesspit of a city, he's infiltrated every level of its infrastructure, as Ra's did once before him. And this is why Bane is going to conduct a little social experiment. He will give Gotham a chance to redeem itself. For 1 year, he will hold the city hostage, and at the end of that year, he'll decide whether or not the city is worthy. If at the end of that year, the city gets its act together, they stop the crime wave, the police develop integrity, and they stop all corruption at the government level, then he'll let everyone go free. However, if at the end of that year Gotham doesn't redeem itself, he detonates the nuke. Here's the thing. Bane can't overthrow a government. He's not that powerful and he's not that stupid, okay? But one thing he can do is take a note from Batman's book and make his point in the most dramatic fashion possible. This social experiment will be so dramatic a thing, it will be all that any newspaper or news channel around the world can talk about for the next year straight. So dramatic, it will leave a permanent imprint on humanity's collective consciousness. He wants the world to be rooting for Gotham. He wants them to believe that Gotham can redeem itself, only so when the city inevitably fails in the end, it crushes their hope all the more, and it spreads a message to everyone, everywhere, that some places need to be burned to the ground. The League's resources are limited. They can't destroy everywhere corrupt in the world, but why would they need to when they can convince the people of the world to do it for them? And over the course of the film, we have our exploration. Bane doesn't just take a back seat here, he actively steps in and is the one who is bribing and threatening people away from redeeming themselves over the course of the movie. Like, crime is still rampant. The police do nothing to stop it, perhaps because Bane's promised that all policemen who don't lift a finger over the next year, he'll make sure all of them and their families are evacuated off the island before the bomb explodes. And it bloody works. The police actually become worse than ever because of this, and Gotham has never been in a more dire state. All the while, I think it'll be really fun if Bane is making regular appearances on Fox and CNN where he explains to the anchors what's going on and the reasons behind his social experiment. He couldn't ask for better publicity. Bane has major validations of his beliefs again and again and again. We see civilians looting and acting with extreme selfishness. Perhaps someone kills a rich businessman, takes all his stuff. Then Bane confronts him and the dude is like, hey, I'm doing what you asked, right? Down with the system. Guys like him are the real criminals. But Bane retorts saying, and a man merely being wealthy is enough to warrant his death? The criminal is left speechless, and with that, Bane snaps the man's neck. This would be a riveting story to follow, because the stakes are now actually higher than they were in that original film. Like, yes, there is still a nuke knocking about, but the stakes feel higher, because not only is Gotham at risk, so is Batman's belief that redemption for all is possible. He's facing imminent physical and ideological defeat. All the while, we have Batman, Gordon, and Robin running around behind the scenes, not just organising a resistance, but trying to rally support for a Gotham free of corruption, trying to fix this broken system. The issue is, Bane is there at every step stopping their efforts. We have perhaps a subplot where there is a guy in the mayor's office who shows some real backbone, like he is the one guy in that office who has even a shred of moral integrity. He's a little bit like Harvey Dent as he provides this glimpse of hope. He might just be their next mayor, and he might be damn good at it too. Then Bane rolls up and says, yeah, so I'll let you and your whole family leave Gotham right now, no strings attached, what do you say? And then he immediately takes up the deal, meaning we're bereft of hope once more. We're still following Robin, and he's really down in the dumps. He's tried so hard, but he's losing hope, and much to Batman's extreme disappointment, he takes Bane's deal he's offered to the police, and Robin chooses to abandon Gotham, believing it's beyond saving. But Gordon doesn't give up. He takes on the mantle and becomes the de facto mayor of Gotham. In the end, after a full year, this all culminates in a push to attack Bane and disarm his nuke before the deadline. Things are looking dire. While Gordon has cleaned up the mayoral office, the police who were promised a barge off the island are getting on that very barge right now, choosing to save their sorry lives and leave Gotham to die. It's turned out that Bane is right after all. Batman again goes alone to fight Bane and his many forces. Gordon strolls up to the police and shouts at them, giving an emotive speech. Somehow this ties into something that happened earlier in the story. I don't know, this is just an outline, not everything is refined. But after Gordon's speech, nothing happens. No one sides with him. That is until we see a pair of feet stepping forward. And who should it be but Robin, choosing to believe in Gotham once more. We cut back to Batman and Bane, and just like the first time, Batman has taken out all of Bane's goons, but my god, did he get his ass kicked in the process. All the support he and Gordon had tried to organise just hasn't materialised. Things are looking bleak. Then, like the Rohirrim at the top of the hill, we see the police force, the entire police force, charging down the street, choosing to finally show a backbone, do the right thing, and risk their lives for the greater good of their city. Bane looks through the window and he is aghast. He can't comprehend what he's looking at.
Impossible.
A massive fight kicks off between Bane's men and the police, and Batman is still getting his ass kicked by Bane. The dude is simply just beating the hell out of him. But then Robin, of all people, turns up and saves Batman's life, and working together, they take down Bane. Bane is defeated, both physically and thematically, by Robin working with Batman. Hey, see what I did there? And Bane knows this, so in a state of shock, he reveals to Batman how the bomb works. It's on a timer. It was going to explode no matter what happened. Bane had such little faith in Gotham. So then Batman flies into the ocean, big bang, Alfred cries, and so we have a totally dispirited Bane arrested and locked behind bars, and maybe Gordon is appointed mayor of Gotham. And we end on a note where we see a brighter future for a city that no longer needs Batman because it's finally gotten its act together. What Batman wanted in film 2 of making himself redundant by promoting Harvey Dent as Gotham's White Knight, he's actually done that now. Batman is no longer necessary, so when Bruce retires, it just makes all that much more sense why he's retiring. Bane set out to prove that Gotham is irredeemable, and ironically, he became the one who spurred it into redemption. But hey, if you'd like to see more video essays like this one, Lindsay Ellis uploaded her takedown of the X-Men universe to Nebula, and she breaks down the hundreds of ways its timeline just makes no sense. It's a great essay, you can watch it right now on Nebula, and while you're there, why not check out my videos on how to write great exposition, and why world building in games is so much better than other mediums like film. I co-founded Nebula with some other creators as a way to elevate what we were making, and it's gone phenomenally. We've been branching out recently into making actual movies. You've got Patrick H. Williams' Night of the Coconut, Philosophy Tube's Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend, Identities, and more films on the way. We're the fastest growing independent video site in the world right now for a reason. If you haven't got Nebula yet, I strongly recommend it because I use it as much as I use YouTube right now. There are no adverts to annoy you, and I find it so nice to watch videos without being sucked down algorithm rabbit holes, and suddenly 2 hours of my time is gone. All you've got to do to join me is click my link down below and grab it for 40% off, making it $36 a year. That's $3 a month. It's really good value for money. And again, once you're signed up, check out Lindsay's X-Men breakdown or my videos that you can only watch on Nebula. Anyway, thanks for watching, keep writing, and I'll see you guys next time on The Closer Look.